Gina, croeso.
Hi, Shmai. Nice to see you, Alan.
And you. I hope you're doing good. You're a solo indie developer working on a Welsh mythology inspired game called Toward Dawn. How is everything going? Because I know it's been a bit of a mad week this week, trying to get a trailer together, and you're working on a demo for the new year. So, how has it been lately?
Yeah, it's been busy. I mean, it's always busy being a solo dev, but especially busy getting everything ready for Steam Next Fest. But it's been good. I'm really enjoying all my changes and working on it. So yeah, it's been really good too.
Good. Glad to hear it. Before we kind of get into the nitty and gritty and questions about the game you're working on, just give us a bit of a background about yourself, the sort of video games that you enjoy playing, that you've grown up on, that you're still playing today, and how you got into game development.
Okay, so I'm Gina, also known as Devi Serene everywhere online. Um, I was originally from South London area, but then after my parents' divorce, ended up moving to the South Coast. I am English. You can probably tell from my accent, but I grew quite close to my stepmom, who is Welsh. I'm very grateful to her because she has always been very supportive of me, encouraging of my interests, and encouraging me to be me and all my weirdness. With games, they've always been part of my life. I can't remember a time not playing games. Some of my earliest memories are playing Final Fantasy Mystic Quest with my brother. He gave me the second controller, said I was playing as the other character, and for years, I thought that was true until 15 years later, I came back to the game and turned out there's no two-player options at all. And I was bamboozled. But, that got me into games. So I'm still very grateful to my brother. Genres I've really enjoyed are RPGs. So I think for me, Final Fantasy VII was the big hit for me that got me super engaged into games. So I fell in love with the character of Aerith, and everything that happened to her was super emotional for me as a child. And I think that definitely made me see games as an art form. And so I've always wanted to make games and be involved in games. So I've been making sort of projects, since I was young, with RPG Maker 95 and RPG Maker 2000. So yeah, I've always wanted to do it, but was also never saw that I could do it. And I didn't really learn programming. I tried to teach myself, but couldn't do it. I couldn't quite get there. I dabbled in lots of art, but never excelled in it. It's never been my main passion. So I was oh, maybe these games aren't for me. And I originally went to university to study sociology, so quite different from games.
Yeah.
But because of depression and mental health, I ended up not going to university. But it was actually a blessing in disguise, because a couple of years later, when I was more sure of myself and more sure of what I really wanted with my life, I found at Bournemouth University, they did a game design degree. So it's okay, this is what I want to do. I'm just going to give it a chance. So I went to Bournemouth, and shout outs to Pete. He is he was an amazing professor. He taught me programming in a way that like made it click. And then I discovered, oh, I'm actually pretty good at programming. So I switched to the games programming course at Bournemouth and gained so much confidence there. And was like, I was sure I wanted like a job after this in the industry. And I knew how competitive that would be. So I did every advantage I could. Like I ran the Games Development Society at Bournemouth. I worked numerous jobs and was like student rep for the course and did my best to get like the top grades in the course as well. And thankfully, all that hard work did end up paying off because I got a job at Frontier Developments in Cambridge afterwards. So from that, I've worked on Elite Dangerous Odyssey, and that was really interesting, like being in actual games development, like in an industry. This was all before COVID as well, so it's all in the office with hundreds of other people, and it was an amazing experience. And then COVID happened, so it's all work from home since then. But still worked on Elite Dangerous, shipped that, and then I got to work on Warhammer Age of Sigmar Realms of Ruin, and that was from like the very beginning of the project. So I got to build a lot of the UI systems like from scratch. So that was really interesting and really hard work as well, but very fulfilling work as well. But yeah, so after 5 years at Frontier, I'd been saving a lot of money because all I wanted to do was make my own games. I wanted to make RPGs. So after Realms of Ruins, I was like, okay, it's time to do this. Let's take the leap. And then I left my job and started working on Toward Dawn.
It's definitely a big thing to leave behind or leave a company to start your own little solo venture, especially into the video game industry. I can't imagine it would have been an easy choice to make, but clearly it's driven by a personal passion.
Definitely.
So tell us about Toward Dawn and the type of game it is.
Okay, so Toward Dawn is a turn-based pixel RPG. You play as Carys, who's a priestess whose temple is attacked and destroyed, and she is rescued by Bleddyn, who is a Gwyllgi from Welsh mythology. The story largely focuses on how the characters deal with the trauma that's affected their lives, both current and past experiences, and how they handle it now. It shows how hurt people can hurt people, but with support and introspection, you can choose to break such harmful cycles.
So how long have you been working on this game now, Toward Dawn?
Okay, so been working full-time on it since March this year. So currently it's like, 8 months since then? And I've been pretty full on with it. Like if I have my mind set on something, I just go 150% on it. So I feel like I've come quite far and learned so much already.
As a solo developer, how much sort of support is there available? Because I know that there are like free assets and graphical assets and music that you can use these days. But obviously the bulk of the work it comes from yourself. How much support has there been or is there available for solo developers like yourself?
Yeah. So there is some support from the government. So like there's the UK Games Fund. There's even some Welsh regional focused funding, but they are all application based,
Yeah.
and they get thousands of people applying to them, and they can't give money to everyone.
Yeah.
So even I have applied to them, but unfortunately wasn't accepted, so didn't get any money from them. There are other things like loans, and I think Startup Loans, Innovate UK do them, but I didn't feel comfortable getting a huge loan. Like I'm bad enough at like my student loan
Yeah.
on my mind, let alone a big business loan. Not to say like I do have faith in my game. It's just realistically as well, like 70% of indie games don't make money, and that's something you really have to accept when you go on this adventure, is that you're probably going to lose money, and you have to be okay with that.
Yeah.
And that can be quite difficult, especially in the times we live in. But for me especially, this was something I really needed to do for myself. Like, I want to make this story. I want to make this game that I want to play and I want to see. So yeah, it's difficult, but
Yeah.
I wouldn't change it for the world either.
Good. Good. I like that you're so, well, you've got your own principles, but you sound confident as well. And clearly it is something that you're passionate about. That's what's driving you to create this game. So
100%. Yes.
yeah, yeah. And I know it sounds like you know, whatever happens, you're going to try and see it through regardless. You're going to put this game out there.
Oh, definitely. I want to see it made. Like, even if I'm the only one who plays it, at least it's a game that I want to play. I'm like, I put demos out there, and some very kind people have like said really nice things about it, like that the story has affected them, that they like the characters, and to me that makes it worth it, because even if it's only a few people, it's helped change their lives or influence their lives. And
Yeah,
I think that's what art is. And yeah, games are art to me.
yeah, definitely. I do agree with you. And I can promise you, you won't be the only person playing. I'm definitely going to be playing it as well. So,
Thank you.
yeah. So it's obviously a Welsh inspired game, Toward Dawn. But where does that come from? The Welsh inspiration, the Welsh influences? Because, like you said, you are English, and it's maybe a little uncommon for people outside of Wales to create a Welsh inspired game, Welsh mythology inspired, Welsh language inspired. So, first of all, it's amazing to see. It's great to hear from somebody that is from Wales, to hear somebody outside of Wales creating something like this. So, tell me where that all comes from.
Yeah, like it's a question I get asked a lot, especially by other English people, who would then often assume, oh, I must be Welsh to do this when I'm not. And I'm like a wolf girl. I really like wolves. And one of the big things about mythology is a lot of wolf stories and a lot of myths about how bad wolves are. But I like mythology, and one time I found the myth about the Gwyllgi. So a Gwyllgi is the midnight dog, but it's often presented as a big black wolf. And even in Welsh mythology, it's depicted as, you know, a monster who just eats people indiscriminately. But for whatever reason, I found those particular stories really interesting. And then that pushed me more into learning about other Welsh myths. And, you know, I had a bit of a predisposition for Wales as well because of my stepmom. And also you have a like red dragon on your flag. Like, that's the coolest thing ever. So it just spurred me to learn even more and more. And when I was reading the Mabinogion stories, especially the fourth branch of it, so Goirin and Arianrod and all these women who have had quite horrible things happen to them, but they continue to like have agency and determination and resilience despite all this unjustified hardship they go through. And I found that incredibly inspiring, especially from like medieval text when women are often forgotten or not given such agency. And so that inspired me to write a story about a woman who is disempowered, but who continues and works through the trauma that she's faced. So, yeah, that's why it is very Welsh heavy. I just wanted to showcase all that Welsh influence it has, because I'm proud to share it. Like, I could just say it was all from my head, but no, a lot of it was all influenced by Welsh myths, so I want to say it was, yeah.
Yeah, and it's a beautiful thing because Welsh stories, you know, the tales of the Mabinogion, they're so influential, and it's beautiful to hear people from outside of Wales reading it and being inspired by it. And you're right, there's so many sort of tragic stories, especially involving the women, but usually they come through it. I think Rhiannon is like a great example of one of the stories, which
definitely
sounds like she's probably an inspiration toward Dawn as well.
The very like original premise of the story, Carys, the main character, was heavily influenced by Rhiannon. She's changed a lot now. She's more distant from that because she was originally a princess like Rhiannon, but now she's a priestess, so slightly different. But yeah.
You mentioned your stepmom there as well, who is Welsh. So did she sort of introduce you to any particular Welsh stories or mythological like writings when you were getting to know her as well?
So she, when I was like expressing my interest in Welsh myths and all of that, she mentioned the Mabinogion and said, "Oh, I should read that." So yeah, that's what got me into reading that, and then obviously influencing, I can make a story with all these female influences.
Yeah, but yeah, I played the current demo, which I am aware is not 100% accurate to the progress of where it's at right now, but it's still enjoyable. You can play the first 3 chapters, and the battle system in particular is very interesting. So where does the inspiration lie with that? Because it feels like a very, at least the old battle system, the way it looked, was very Final Fantasy like. And I know that it's kind of changed a little bit now, but it also has what I think is kind of like a Fire Emblem-ish influence as well. But where would you say it all stems from?
So the Fire Emblem influence is definitely there for the scenes, like the characters talking. Yeah, that is very much influenced by the Game Boy Advance Fire Emblems. I found that's so cute, and I love the pixel art of the characters talking. In my game, they do move a bit more. There's a bit more animation between it. But the battle system is actually a strange one in that a big influence on it was Elden Ring, even though Elden Ring's not a turn-based JRPG style, but the poise mechanic and breaking them was actually influenced by the same mechanics that are in Elden Ring. I was just turning it into more of a party turn-based feel. So it's quite different. Other people have said it feels a lot like Grandia or Child of Light, which I can very much see the resemblance, but it was actually Elden Ring that influenced it. The look of the battle system, the new version is very much inspired by Phantasy Star 2 from the old Mega Drive. So from that, you can see the characters' backs and them performing swings or casting spells. And I really liked the retro feel for that. And I think it's looking a lot more polished. And yeah, I'm liking how it looks now.
Yeah, I think as well the break system reminded me a bit of like Bravely Default or Octopath Traveler as well, because that was also in those games, and I wondered if that stemmed from that as well a little bit.
Yeah, it definitely has that kind of influence with the name of it, Break, that and the way the letters come in. But it is different in that, like, Octopath Traveler, you have to hit their weak spots, while in Toward Dawn, you're breaking them by doing damage to their poise meter and breaking their stance instead.
Yeah, and then the new style now, it reminds me, I mean, there's so many different games that have a similar style, but it reminds me of Dragon Quest, I think, as well. But then you don't actually see the characters, do you, in Dragon Quest? You just see the enemies in front of you. So what made you want to change the battle style? And I do admit, like, it looks brilliant now, I gotta say. So I think it's a right change, but what made you want to do that?
So the way it is now is how I originally envisioned it, but I felt like at the time when I was first making it, my pixel art wasn't as good enough to be able to make it. But through my journey making Toward Dawn, I've had to do a lot of art, and the best way to become an artist is practice. So through all that practice, I feel like now I can make something that looks pretty good. So yeah,
I mean, it does look brilliant, but I can't imagine the sort of work involved with the do you create all the special effects yourself and things like that, or is some of that downloadable?
So itch.io is like a fantastic site for finding resources as well as indie games. Like the new special effects with like all the sparkles and the things that all look amazing, they are from packs that I've bought. The old, more simpler ones are ones I've made. And it was quite difficult for me to buy the packs and like start using other people's work for the game. 'Cause to me, it felt like I'm failing in that I'm not doing everything, but I do also have to be realistic in that I can't do everything, absolutely everything, especially in the time frame that I have to make the game. And it's perfectly all right to get some help that way. And I think it works really well as long as the art style also matches my art style and it all looks like it's meant to be there. And that's the important thing.
No, I agree with you. I don't think there's any shame in that at all. And I'm glad you don't think that now. And like you say, as long as it feels right, then they're there to be used. So I don't think there's anything wrong with that. And the fact is, you are doing the bulk of it on your own.
Exactly.
So, nothing to be ashamed of for that.
Yeah, like when you're a solo dev, you're the artist, programmer, designer, marketer, writer, producer, QA, like you do everything. So you have to accept that some things you can outsource and it's fine.
Yeah, of course it is. Yeah. But that makes me think about when it comes to the difficulty of the game, because you have got multiple difficulty modes. So how do you fine tune that particular part of the game and determine does this feel too easy? Does it feel too hard? Because you are creating the game, and then you're testing it yourself. So how do you sort of come to the final decisions on what feels like a normal, easy, hard, and how do you get there in terms of balancing?
Yeah, so it's really difficult, I won't lie. Because I'm making the game, I'm playing it a lot, and it's good in some ways, but also bad in that I am nowhere near like the first time experienced player. Like, I know everything about the game, so it's quite difficult to balance it that way. But I do my best. I try like low level strategies and then like a bit higher level strategies. For the actual difficulties, easy or story mode, I just make the fights so much easier just through numerical changes in that you do more damage and the enemies do less damage, because, you know, if you're more interested in the story, it just makes the battles so much quicker to get through and get to the parts you want.
Yeah.
For the harder difficulty, I slightly changed the mechanics in that on normal and easy, when you break an enemy, they take a long time to recover from the break stance. While in the harder mode, it's a bit quicker. And everyone takes less damage unless they're in the break stance. So it like forces you to use that mechanic instead of just killing enemies.
Yeah.
I annoy my friends a lot by asking them to play the game and tell me how they are finding the difficulty. But again, that's hard as well because they play it so much that now they're no longer the first time experienced user. So I need to find like other people, and that becomes a lot more difficult. So then I rely on people who play the demo to tell me, is it hard? Is it too easy? And I think it's just something I do my best to balance, you know?
Yeah. I have played the normal mode difficulty, and I think that balance is good. I don't think I died, but I did find a couple of bosses challenging. So I think the balance in there does feel right. So, you know,
Good.
get through.
That's really good.
Yeah, it's not until the bosses where you feel like there's more of a challenge. So I think you've got the normal mode right, but I'm not one for challenging modes most of the time these days. So I didn't want to dive into that.
Yeah, the game is primarily designed for the normal difficulty. I think most games are, and then they just do some numerical changes for if you want to play it again, but come up with new strategies. Another thing I do to help me with balancing is the experience you get from like the non-boss fights. That scales based on your current level. So for like chapter 3, I expect you to be like level 5. So then I can balance the boss around being that level. So yeah, to me, the boss fights are like the most important mechanical engaging fights. So yeah, it is difficult though because the game has so much customization for the characters through the skill tree and the equipment system. So it does then become more difficult in that the player has so many options. I have to balance like, okay, what builds are they using? But it's a fun aspect, even if it is difficult to do.
Yeah, it does sound like a heck of a task, especially because you mentioned the skill tree.
Yes.
And you could theoretically just grind and level up and unlock all as many abilities as you could. But then I suppose that's part of what an RPG is about, isn't it? It's up to the player if they decide they want to do that, if they want an easier ride through a game. But I think a lot of games as well are doing a kind of basing certain bosses on, they even say what your recommended level should be, really. Yeah. So I've started to see that a bit more in games these days. Makes me wonder if even older games were designed that way without even realizing it. they just kind of, because even
I think
particular
they
enemies and
do.
bosses have levels, don't they, themselves?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like in Final Fantasies, you could often scan the enemy to find out what level they are. So I think they were balanced around that.
Yeah.
When I go back to like Final Fantasy VII, I don't even need to grind or anything now. So I think they balanced it well.
It's funny, isn't it? Because even I remember being a kid playing Final Fantasy VII and struggling so hard on particular bosses.
Yeah.
And then I play it today, and even without over leveling, you kind of just know how to do things now. And I suppose it just comes from understanding the mechanics. And I suppose every game is going to be, every time you play the game, it's going to be different. You're going to equip different magic or abilities or utilize characters differently. But that's, again, that's part of the beauty of RPGs, isn't it?
Exactly. And I think it's fun for the player as well to come up with builds and strategies. And I'm sure someone will find like a super overpowered strategy, but it's like that's also part of the fun as well,
of course,
if you manage to find that. So
and it's kind of, it would probably be cool to hear of how other players
exactly
either break your game or kind of
definitely
completely decimate a particular boss or something.
I'd love it if someone told me like they destroyed my well thought out boss in like 2 rounds. So.
But in the first demo that you've got up there, you've got 2 controllable characters. But I wouldn't want you to spoil too much. But are there other playable characters in the game? And how much does things change throughout the story? Is Carys the sort of only main character that you control, or is there any surprises along the way?
Yeah, so a big thing when making a game as a solo dev is scope control. So I would love to have made a super huge game of lots of characters like a Final Fantasy, but I knew that wouldn't be feasible for me. So Bleddyn and Carys aren't the only main characters. There's also Idwal, who you meet at the end of Chapter 3. He joins the party as a permanent character. But then there are also 2 guest characters. So in the new first chapter, Tonwen joins you as a guest party member who helps you in some battles. And there's another character who you meet later on who also joins you for some battles, just to give you, like, mix things up a bit and give you a new strategy. But it would be a bit too much work if I started giving them like skill trees and or the equipment system, because then again, like we were talking with the balancing, it just compounds more and more work.
Yes, definitely. It is a very focused game on 2 particular characters by the sounds of it, Carys and Bleddyn, and the relationship that they develop just based on the opening chapters. That's what it seems like, which is a good thing, of course, because it's good to have very focused storylines too.
Yes, so it is a bit of an unconventional game in that the main character is a healer and as well as just a woman. It's not often done, especially in JRPGs. And the male love interest is a werewolf. So it's weird and different, but it's something I wanted to see. Also, Carys starts as the innocent healer type, but her big character arc is actually about vengeance and using people to enact that violence and realizing what's right and wrong and what true strength actually is. So it's quite a different story arc than is normally given to her character types. And Bleddyn being the big wolf man with a big sword, who's stoic, mysterious, protective. His character arc is actually more emotional and about valuing himself as a person and also showing off his goofy side and having fun. So yeah, I think having the ability to make the story that I want, very different to a lot of other games that are on Steam or whatever, other RPGs. That creative liberty is the best thing in the world to me. It's my favorite thing about being a solo dev.
The important thing, I think, is that it's a story that you want to create.
Mhm.
And I think that's probably the case for most indie games, especially developers of indie story-based games. It's something that you want to create. It's something that you want to play, that you want to see.
Exactly.
And if you want to play it, if you want to see it, it's likely that there are other people that want to see it too. So the main thing is that you are creating something that you're passionate about, and particularly with Bleddyn, who's obviously a Gwyllgi, but a wolf-like character, they're not always portrayed, like you said, in the best light. So it's
Yes.
refreshing to see them, or to see him being kind of the opposite of that, and trying to put that kind of different character out there as well.
Yeah, I think it's good to show that very masculine characters, even though he's like a wolf man, he's still a masculine man. I think it's good to show that they can be emotional and romantic and still be very masculine and nice. I think
Yeah, of
it's,
course.
yeah.
Yeah. It doesn't matter how you look or how masculine you are. Everyone has an emotional side, and
Exactly.
it's absolutely important to show that.
Yeah,
So yeah, there's going to be people that are going to relate to those characters 100%.
I hope so.
Well, if someone wanted to get to know the type of story that you're creating in Toward Dawn, are there any particular Welsh stories that you would recommend, or characters maybe from the Mabinogion that you would advise people to look into, that might give them a bit of a slight understanding of the type of game they're creating and the characters that are in the game?
Yeah, okay. So Blodeuwedd, I know her a lot as Flower Face because that's the English version of the story. That's the name they gave her. So she was a woman created by men from flowers, and they created her to marry a man. So her whole life, her story, is about not having agency. But then, despite that, she has a plan to gain agency. It doesn't quite work out for her, but in my story, it does. Like, it's very different. Carys is not a flower face lady, but the symbolism, the meaning behind it, that's what influenced me with the story.
Yes. And what about for Bleddyn? Is that more just your love of wolves and whiskey? Is that, or is there any sort of character influence behind him as well?
So, also in the Mabinogion, he's a very brief character, but there's a character called Bleddyn who is half wolf, half man. He's like a son of the gods. He doesn't really do much in the story, as far as I've been able to find out, but the fact that there is a werewolf type character in Welsh mythology got me interested, and
Yeah.
obviously their names are very, very similar. So.
Yeah, I like it. So, with your experience so far in creating Toward Dawn, and even prior to that, what's your feeling of Welsh representation in games? So, obviously, it's something that you're passionate about, you're interested in, but how do you feel about where things are at on that side of things in video games?
Yeah, so I actually think there's a lot of Welsh influence and stuff in games. It's just very often hidden away. And all of your work shows that, really. I think there's so much potential to tap into from Welsh myths, Welsh stories, as well as just the culture in Wales, the language. It's beautiful. Like, there's so much to draw from it. And I think games and creators should say that they were influenced by it, because, yeah, there's nothing wrong with it. There should be more. So, yeah, I'd love to see more open and proud Welsh games, or games setting Wales or setting Welsh myths. Tales from the Mabinogion coming out sometime next year or the year after, I'm not sure. But that's another indie game that looks absolutely beautiful and I'm very excited for.
Yeah.
Obviously, Wales as well is such a beautiful place. I think a lot of like Japanese games as well, often come to Wales to be influenced by the beauty. So, yeah, I think there will be even more games.
Yeah, I hope so. And yours is now on that list as well.
Yeah, true.
But your game isn't even just Welsh mythology inspired; it's actually Welsh language inspired.
It's true, yes. Yeah.
Welsh character names, Welsh place names. You've got one town, real life town called Llanllwch, which is
Yes.
mentioned in the game. So it's nice to see that, you're drawing from not just the myths of Wales, but the actual country itself and the language. So what inspires you to sort of do more than just Welsh mythology and actually draw from Welsh places and why Llanllwch?
Yeah, so when I was building the world in Toward Dawn, I did look at real world history because that's such a good influence. And so I looked at a lot of Welsh history. In the backstory for Toward Dawn, there is a rebellion of the people, and it's headed by a man called Owain. And in real life, there was a Welsh revolt headed by Owain, and the town of Llanllwch was destroyed. It was, during that rebellion. And it happens to be in my game, that town is also destroyed. So that's why I named the characters and the place together, because they're also kind of linked in real life, even though both the character and the town are very different from each other, because in real life it's more of a village, while in my game it's a city.
Yeah, I like what you've done because a lot of games, they can be Welsh inspired, Welsh mythology inspired, but then the character names or places are completely at odds with Welsh mythology, and that's okay. But you can design a game however you like, and if one particular part of a game is inspired by Welsh mythology, that's great. But there's not many games that embrace all of that, embrace all of Wales, the language, real names, place names, as well as Welsh stories. So that's part of what makes your game so unique as well.
So thank you. I find it just binds everything together so well and so easily by having the language and having names of people. It just works and makes everything feel a lot more cohesive.
Yeah.
And also just showcases my appreciation for Wales and Welsh people, because I was influenced by a lot of the myths, but myths aren't real. They were invented by people. They were invented by the Welsh people. And so I also want to pay respects to the real life people.
Yeah. And I think you are being respectful, and
thank you.
Any Welsh person would appreciate what you're doing, because we always want to see Welsh inspired games. Of course we do. So it's even more amazing to hear of somebody from outside of Wales that's creating a game so heavily inspired by it, and you are doing it as respectfully as you can. Because I should mention as well that you are trying to put how to pronounce particular Welsh words in the game in a little codex, which is great. And it's difficult enough to try and interpret certain Welsh letters and syllables and words into English in a written format.
Yeah.
So I know it's not easy, but you're trying, and people will appreciate that, to try and get people that maybe aren't familiar with the language, whether they're Welsh or not, to kind of have a better idea and understanding of how certain things are pronounced, and therefore to help them realize, this is a language that clearly exists.
Yes. Yeah, I want to be as respectful as I can, especially because I'm English and reading a lot about Welsh history. Yeah, there's some contention there, but I'm doing my best, and it can be quite difficult, like when with the codex and the pronunciation of words, especially with like the double L sound, and trying to make up my own fantasy words, but trying to use Welsh, it's quite difficult. Like, I do ask my stepmom how some things I either pronounce or what would work, but one person is not the whole of Wales, and Wales does have different dialects, like North and South divide, as well as all those in between. So eventually I do just have to choose something and hope for the best. But yeah.
Yeah. And I don't think anyone should, if they pronounce things a different way to how you've kind of interpreted it in your game, I don't think anyone is they shouldn't be upset about it, because it is true. Of course, we've got different dialects and different ways of pronouncing certain words and letters across Wales. So it's no different than any other country. So, like you said, at some point you just have to accept this is how I want it said in this particular game, and any Welsh person is just going to be happy to see the influence in there. So yeah, I hope you don't put too much pressure on yourself on that side of things.
Yeah, like every Welsh person I've shown the game to have actually been like, oh my god, that's so cool that you're doing a Welsh-inspired game. So yeah, I'm quite positive about it. It was something I was really worried about, but
yeah,
far less now. So.
You shouldn't have anything to worry about. It is looking brilliant. So what's the rough sort of time frame that you hope to release the game? I know, of course, you're still hoping to put a new demo out there, so maybe you can tell us when that might come out as well. But then what's your feeling on when you think or you hope to release Toward Dawn?
So the demo will be out for the Steam Next Fest. So that's end of February, beginning of March. I hope the game will be ready and done by April. So very short time frame, but I have like implemented all of the chapters now, done all the writing. So it's a lot more just polishing up and doing a lot more balancing, and yeah, with the new battle system as well, like making that all look good. So hopefully I'll get it there in time.
Yeah.
A terrible thing for a game dev is announcing a release date, because it always gets pushed back, but hopefully it will be in April.
Yeah, hopefully is a good word to use. And then if it does slip by, then, well, it's fine. It will get there. I'm sure it will.
Yes, yeah. I won't rest till it's done.
I hope you do rest
Yeah.
at some point. So you said the story is completely written. Have you like kind of developed right to the end of the game, final bosses and all that kind of thing?
Yeah. So I have it all written. Well, all the scenes are written and in-game. The boss fights up until like chapter 5. There's 8 chapters. So I still need to work on their balance and make sure it all goes as intended. But I'm like going to be heavily focusing on that during February. So hopefully, according to my schedule, it will all go fine. But yes, we'll see.
Yeah, I'm sure it will go more than fine.
Thank you.
Highly recommend anyone that's interested in not just Welsh mythology, but Japanese role-playing games in general to check it out.
No matter what, I'm going to be proud to have created it.
Yeah, absolutely. And you should be. You should be proud of everything you've achieved so far, for sure.
Thank you.
Are there any sort of Welsh references or characters or stories that you would love to see brought into video game format?
Interesting. I would love to see, again, from the Mabinogion, a game, again, inspired by Blood Irish, just because I'd love a horror game that's based on female disempowerment. I know it sounds really strange, but I feel like it's a perfect genre for it, because it's feminine horror in there. I'm crazy, but
Well, some of the best games are crazy and
Yes.
and spooky and weird, so why not?
Yes. So I'd love a game where you play as a woman such as Blood Iris who doesn't have so much power in her own right, which I think makes for a perfect horror game, but you're trying to do something like kill your husband or or
Right. I don't think
survive.
I'll let my
So
wife play that then. But that's interesting.
yeah, yeah, and exciting to my mind.
Yeah. I hope none of that's in your game Toward Dawn.
No. I mean, no.
But I like it. I'm not great with horror games, but if there was something Welsh mythology inspired or Welsh characters,
Maybe
then I
you'd give it a go.
yeah. But you don't have to share if you don't want. But have you got other ideas for maybe future video games if Toward Dawn is a success for you?
Yeah, so the original game I wanted to make was a tactical RPG, so kind of like Fire Emblem, but again, because of trying to keep all the scope down, I knew that would be way too much, creating like all manner of characters and yeah. So if I was able to make another game, I'd love to revisit that idea because again, that was following a peasants' rebellion. It was setting the same world as Toward Dawn is in. So I'd love to revisit that because I think so many tactical RPGs and JRPGs often follow a lost prince trying to reclaim the throne or something along that line. And I'd like a RPG where you're playing as the peasants rebelling against the crown, and you're not a secret lost prince or anything. You're people fighting for your agency, for your land.
Yeah.
Reclaim it.
Freedom.
Exactly. Yes. Yeah.
So I find that interesting. So you'd probably set it within the world of Toward Dawn as well?
Oh, definitely, yes.
Yeah. In that case, I do hope Toward Dawn is a success.
Yes.
Because there's usually always more to explore within a particular game world, you know, because you only see what you see in between those particular characters, but in any given world, there's thousands, millions of other people going through their own struggles and plights.
Exactly.
So on another part of the continent, there could be something else entirely going on. So there's always more to explore, I think.
Exactly. And in Toward Dawn, it's very focused on very small amount of characters in a very small region. So I've written about hints around the world and what the world is like, but you don't really get to explore it all or learn all about it. So I hope people would be interested in learning more about it, and I hope I get to make more games setting that world.
I hope so too. But Gina, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Toward Dawn, it's already looking brilliant, and you know, the updated videos that you have been showing, the battle system, the battles themselves look amazing. So I can't wait to check out the final game. So I do wish you all the best with it. And it is just amazing to again see someone from outside of Wales that isn't Welsh creating a Welsh inspired game. And I know other Welsh people and non-Welsh people are going to be really interested in it. So good luck with it. But yeah, please let us know where people can follow you and find your game. Share whatever social medias you like, and I'll put them on the screen and you know, in the description below.
Thank you. So the big one, Toward Dawn on Steam. But then on Blue Sky and Twitter or X or YouTube, I'm Devi Serene, so all one word. And yeah, thank you so much for doing this. Thank you so much for doing Wales in Games as well, because I think it's such an important resource, and
I know your cat wants to chime in as well.
Yeah. Do you like whales in games too? I think she does.
Good.
But yeah, it's such an important resource. I think it's so good that you're showcasing to the world all these Welsh influences that are often hidden about in games, and showing the world that Wales is really cool and beautiful, and yeah, a great place to be.
Thank you. It is. But no, thank you so much. No, I really appreciate your time, and I appreciate the kind words as well. But yeah, I do hope people check out your game. I wish you all the best with it, and hopefully we can chat again after it's released, and we'll see where everything's at with you and the game itself.
That'd be amazing.
Yeah, so looking forward to it. So thank you so much.
Yes.
Good luck, Gina.
Thank you.
Take care. Bye bye.
Bye.